Hey everyone, and welcome to another deep dive.
Yeah.
We love to explore cutting-edge topics, and today is no exception. We're diving headfirst into the world of AI and how it's reshaping the way we communicate with each other.
It's a really fascinating area.
It is. Think about it. AI is already woven into so much of our daily lives. But to really get a handle on this, we're going to be digging into this academic article called Artificial Intelligence and its Impact on Interpersonal Communication.
Sounds good.
Yeah, I think it's going to give us a framework for this conversation. So what we really want to do today is unpack both the upsides and the downsides. The potential and the pitfalls of AI when it comes to how we connect as humans.
Yeah, because like you said, it's already here. It's not some far-off future thing.
Exactly. It's happening now. So I think it's crucial to really understand how this technology is impacting us, both for better and for worse.
Definitely.
Okay, so let's start with something relatable, right? Something our listeners can connect with right away. Many of us, I know I do use things like Zoom's auto subtitles all the time,
Yeah.
or rely on our trusty voice assistants for directions, things like that.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Those everyday tools actually use AI, and they're already subtly shaping how we interact. So what are your thoughts on how these seemingly small changes, using subtitles or asking Siri for the weather, are impacting communication on a grander scale?
Well, one thing that strikes me is that we're starting to expect things from communication that we didn't before. Like, we're getting used to instant replies, perfect transcripts, and even emotional analysis from AI.
There's a point.
And this could lead to more efficient communication, which is great. But it also makes you wonder about authenticity and what it means for human connection, down the line.
Hmm. It's true. Like, are we losing something in the process?
It's a question worth asking.
It is.
Yeah.
The article actually delves into this idea of AI breaking down barriers. Can you talk a little bit more about that for our listeners?
Sure. One of AI's biggest strengths is its ability to bridge gaps like distance and language. Think about real-time translation features. They let you have a conversation with someone even if you don't speak the same language.
Oh, yeah, those are mind-blowing.
Right? It's like something out of Star Trek. And those tools are only going to get more advanced. Imagine a world where language is no longer a barrier to communication. That could foster incredible understanding and collaboration across cultures.
Totally. It's like a more interconnected world.
Exactly. And it's not just language. AI is helping people with disabilities too. Things like Otter.ai that provides those automatic transcripts. It's making conversations and meetings accessible to people who might have difficulty hearing.
That's incredible. It's really creating a more inclusive communication landscape where
Yeah.
everyone has the opportunity to participate and be heard.
Absolutely.
Now, the article also touches on AI's ability to analyze our emotional communication. And I have to say, this one really caught my attention.
Oh, yeah. It's fascinating stuff.
It is. Can you break it down for our listeners? Like, how is AI getting involved in our emotions?
Well, AI algorithms are getting really good at picking up on subtle cues. Like they can analyze our tone of voice, facial expressions, even our word choices to figure out our emotional state. Imagine virtual coaches that can help you boost your emotional intelligence, They could give you feedback on how you communicate and help you improve.
Okay, I'm definitely intrigued by that.
Yeah.
But a part of me is a little skeptical.
Hmm.
Like, can AI really understand the nuances of human emotion?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it?
It is. Because isn't there a difference between AI recognizing I'm sad based on my tone of voice versus, a friend offering a genuinely empathetic ear?
You've hit the nail on the head. There's a big difference. AI right now is amazing at recognizing patterns and mimicking responses, but it doesn't actually experience emotions the way we do.
Right. It's like the difference between knowing something intellectually and actually feeling it.
Exactly. So while AI can pick up on those emotional cues, it's not a substitute for a real human connection.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
It's like AI can be a helpful tool, but it's not a replacement for genuine human interaction.
Precisely.
This actually leads into another point that the article brings up: AI's potential to make interactions feel less genuine.
Yeah, that's a real concern. If we lean too heavily on AI to write our messages or generate responses, those interactions can start to feel a bit robotic and impersonal.
So you're saying that the human touch, that spark of real connection, could get lost in the process.
There's definitely a risk of that happening. The article uses the example of AI-generated messages, and I think it's a good one. Think about those messages you get sometimes. They often feel a bit off, They lack the warmth and personality of a real human being.
Oh, yeah, I know exactly what you mean.
And that lack of authenticity, it can erode trust, both in our personal lives and in our professional relationships. It's like if we can't be sure if we're talking to a real person or a machine, it becomes harder to build meaningful connections.
That is a little unsettling. Makes you wonder if over-reliance on AI could actually make us worse at communicating.
It's a valid concern. If we let AI do all the heavy lifting for us, we might lose the ability to develop those essential social skills, like reading body language, navigating conflict face to face, or just having a natural, unscripted conversation. Those are skills that need practice.
Wow. I hadn't thought about it that way, but it makes sense. If we outsource all of our communication to AI, we could end up socially awkward and inept.
It's a possibility. And it seems like this is just the tip of the iceberg when it comes to the role of AI in our lives.
It definitely feels that way.
Yeah.
And there are some even bigger issues to grapple with, like the potential for AI to be used for spreading misinformation and eroding our privacy.
Oh, yeah. Those are huge concerns.
They are. The article actually brings up deepfakes, and I have to admit that's something that really freaks me out.
Yeah.
Can you explain to our listeners what those are and why they're so dangerous?
Sure. A deepfake is basically a video that's been manipulated with AI, to make it look like someone is saying or doing something they never actually did. And these videos can be incredibly convincing. It's almost impossible to tell what's real and what's fake.
It's scary how realistic they've gotten.
It is. Imagine seeing a deepfake of a world leader, declaring war or spreading false information during a crisis. The potential for chaos and manipulation is enormous.
It really underscores the need for critical thinking and media literacy in the age of AI. We can't just believe everything we see online anymore.
Exactly. We need to be discerning consumers of information.
Absolutely. And then there's the issue of privacy. If AI is constantly analyzing our emotions and communication patterns, where does that data go? Who has access to it?
That's a crucial question and one that we need to be asking more often. The truth is, a lot of these AI systems need massive amounts of data to function. Everything from our facial expressions to how our voice sounds when we're speaking. That data is being collected and analyzed. And while some of it might be anonymized, there's still valid concerns about how it's used and who has access to it.
It feels like we're standing at a crossroads with AI and communication.
We are.
It has this amazing potential to change how we connect with each other, but it also comes with some serious risks.
For sure. It's a double-edged sword.
It is. So, what do you think the future holds? Where do we go from here with all this?
Well, that's a big question and one that we'll be exploring further, I think. Yeah, it is a big question, and it's one that's tough to answer definitively, but I think the article does a good job of looking at both sides, the potential benefits and the potential risks of AI in communication.
Okay, so before we dive into those future possibilities, I think it'd be helpful for our listeners to hear some concrete examples of how AI is already impacting communication. Like you said earlier, AI is already embedded in many of the tools we use every day.
Right.
So can you give us some specific examples of how AI is being used right now to make communication better?
Sure. So one area where AI is making a real difference is in accessibility. Like think about virtual assistants. Siri, Alexa, they've become so good at understanding natural language that it's really changing how we interact with technology. And for people with mobility impairments, this is huge. Voice control allows them to control their environment and communicate more easily.
That's a really powerful example. It's amazing how AI can be used to empower people in such practical ways.
Yeah, and it's not just limited to personal use. AI is also being used in the workplace to improve team communication and collaboration. There are platforms out there that use AI to analyze communication patterns, identify bottlenecks, and suggest ways to improve teamwork. Especially for remote teams that don't have as much face-to-face interaction, this can be really valuable.
So it's like having an AI coach for your team.
Exactly. AI can provide that data-driven feedback that can help teams work together more effectively. But of course, we can't just focus on the positives. We also need to be realistic about the potential downsides of AI in communication. Like we talked about earlier, there are also examples of how AI is making communication more challenging or even deceptive.
Right. We need to acknowledge those challenges.
Yeah.
What are some specific examples that come to mind?
Well, one of the most concerning areas is the rise of deepfakes. We touched on this earlier, but I think it's worth reiterating just how dangerous this technology can be.
Yes, please do expand on that. I know I find it really unsettling.
Deepfakes are a real threat to trust and credibility because they make it almost impossible to distinguish between what's real and what's fake. Imagine seeing a deepfake video of a loved one saying or doing something completely out of character. It would be incredibly difficult to know whether to believe your own eyes. And the implications go far beyond personal relationships. Deepfakes can be used to manipulate public opinion, spread misinformation, and even incite violence.
It's a chilling thought, and it really highlights the importance of critical thinking and media literacy in today's world.
Yeah.
We can't just blindly accept everything we see online, especially when it comes to video and audio recordings.
Exactly. We need to be skeptical and question what we see and hear. And of course, there's also the issue of privacy, which we discussed earlier. We need to be aware of how our data is being collected and used by these AI systems.
You mentioned earlier that some companies are using AI to analyze employee emails and messages. That sounds a little intrusive.
It can be. While AI can definitely be used to improve efficiency and productivity in the workplace, it's important to make sure it's not being used to invade employees' privacy. There need to be clear guidelines and regulations in place to protect individual rights.
It sounds like we need a whole new set of digital ethics to navigate this brave new world of AI-powered communication.
I agree. We need to have open and honest conversations about the potential benefits and risks of AI. And these conversations need to involve everyone. This isn't just a technological issue, it's a societal one that affects us all.
So where do we go from here? What can we do as individuals to make sure that AI is used ethically and responsibly in our communication?
Well, the first step is awareness. We need to educate ourselves about how AI is being used and what the potential implications are, both the good and the bad. We also need to be critical consumers of information, questioning the authenticity of what we see and hear online, especially when it comes to videos and audio recordings.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Being informed and staying vigilant are crucial. But what about in our personal lives? How can we embrace the benefits of AI while still preserving that human touch?
I think it's all about balance. We can use these AI-powered tools to make our lives easier and more efficient, but we need to make a conscious effort to maintain genuine human connection. Put down your phone, look people in the eye, have real conversations. Those face-to-face interactions are essential for building strong relationships.
As we're talking about all of this, it keeps coming back to something you said earlier. AI is a tool. It's up to us to decide how we use it.
Exactly. And just like any tool, it can be used for good or for bad. The choice is ultimately ours. It's not about being afraid of AI or rejecting it completely. It's about understanding its power and potential and using it wisely and ethically.
So it's not about being anti-AI. It's about being pro-human. It's about making sure that technology serves humanity, not the other way around.
I like that. Well said. And this brings us to the future of AI and communication. We've already touched on some pretty mind-blowing possibilities like brain-computer interfaces and artificial empathy.
Yes. I'm really curious to hear more about those. The concept of brain-computer interfaces sounds like something straight out of science fiction.
It does, doesn't it? But it's closer to reality than you might think.
So how would brain-computer interfaces change the way we communicate?
Well, imagine a world where people who are unable to speak or move can communicate their thoughts and feelings directly through a brain-computer interface. That's the potential here. It could revolutionize communication, especially for people with disabilities.
Wow, that's incredible. But I have to admit, the idea of technology that can access our thoughts is a little bit unnerving.
Yeah.
Are there any potential risks with brain-computer interfaces? Could they be used to manipulate people's thoughts or even control their actions?
Those are valid concerns. As with any powerful technology, there's always the potential for misuse. That's why it's so important to have ethical guidelines and regulations in place to make sure that brain-computer interfaces are used responsibly and for the benefit of humanity.
It seems like we're entering a whole new era of communication, one where the lines between our minds and technology are becoming increasingly blurred.
We are, and it's both exciting and a little bit daunting. But I believe that if we approach these advancements with a sense of responsibility and a commitment to human well-being, we can harness the power of AI to create a more connected and compassionate world.
Okay, so we've talked about brain-computer interfaces. Now let's talk about artificial empathy. This idea that AI could be used to create more empathetic responses in everything from customer service to therapy is really intriguing.
It is. This is another area where AI has the potential to make a significant impact. Imagine interacting with a chatbot that can not only understand your emotions, but also respond in a way that makes you feel heard and understood. Or a virtual therapist that can provide personalized support and guidance based on your individual needs.
It sounds almost too good to be true, but again, it raises the question of authenticity. Can a machine truly be empathetic? Or is it just mimicking human emotions based on its programming?
That's a question that philosophers and scientists are still debating. There's no easy answer. But I think it's important to remember that even if AI can never fully replicate human empathy, it can still be a powerful tool for good.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, what's the key takeaway for our listeners?
I think the most important thing to remember is that AI is a tool, and like any tool, it can be used for good or for bad. It's up to us to decide how we use it. We need to be aware of both the potential benefits and the risks of AI, and we need to be thoughtful about how we integrate it into our lives.
And we need to make sure that human connection remains at the heart of our communication, even as technology continues to evolve.
Absolutely. Technology should enhance our relationships, not replace them.
Well said. And on that note, I want to thank you, our listeners, for joining us on this deep dive into the fascinating world of AI and interpersonal communication. As we've explored, the future of communication is full of possibilities, both exciting and challenging. It's up to all of us to shape that future in a way that benefits humanity and preserves the essence of human connection. Until next time, keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep connecting. Before we move on from artificial empathy, I'm curious about the nuts and bolts. Like, how does this technology actually work? What does artificial empathy look like in practice?
Well, it's all about training AI systems to recognize and understand human emotions. And they do this by analyzing things like our facial expressions, our tone of voice, even what we write. Imagine a customer service chatbot that can not only answer your questions, but also sense when you're getting frustrated and respond with genuine understanding. Or a virtual therapist that can pick up on subtle emotional cues and tailor its approach based on what you need. It's about using AI to create more human-centered interactions with technology.
That makes sense. And it sounds like it could have a huge impact on how we interact with technology in all sorts of areas. But it brings us back to that question of authenticity. Can a machine really empathize, or is it just mimicking human emotions based on its programming?
It's a tough question, and there's no easy answer. Some experts believe that real empathy requires consciousness and self-awareness, which AI might never achieve. But others argue that even if AI can't feel emotions the way we do it, can still be programmed to respond in ways that feel empathetic. The line between real empathy and sophisticated mimicry is getting pretty blurry.
I see what you mean. It's almost like a philosophical debate about the nature of consciousness and emotion. Like,
Mhm.
if an AI can respond in a way that makes us feel understood and supported, does it really matter if it's truly empathizing? The impact on us is the same, whether the empathy is real or simulated.
Exactly. You've hit on a key point. The perceived authenticity of AI's emotional responses is becoming increasingly important. As AI gets more sophisticated, we might find ourselves questioning whether we're forming real connections with these machines or just responding to clever algorithms.
Right. It makes me wonder about the future of human connection. Like, if AI can fulfill our emotional needs, will we become less reliant on each other?
It's certainly possible. As AI evolves, it could challenge our ideas about companionship and connection. But I do believe that human connection will always have a special significance. We're social beings wired for genuine interaction. While AI might offer some emotional benefits, I don't think it can ever fully replace the depth and complexity of human relationships.
That's reassuring. I think it's important to remember that AI is ultimately a tool. And like any tool, it can be used for good or bad. It's our responsibility to make sure it's used in a way that benefits us and strengthens our connections with each other.
I couldn't agree more. The future of AI and communication is in our hands. We need to be responsible and committed to using this technology for the greater good. We have to be mindful of the risks, but also open to the possibilities.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, what's the most important thing you want our listeners to take away from our conversation today?
I think the key takeaway is this AI is changing how we communicate. It's breaking down barriers, creating new opportunities, and challenging our traditional ideas about connection. It's a powerful tool with the potential to enrich our lives in countless ways, but it also comes with risks that we need to be aware of. As we navigate this new landscape, we need to be thoughtful, responsible, and above all, human. We need to remember that technology should serve us, not the other way around.
Couldn't have said it better myself. And with that, I want to thank you all for joining us on this deep dive into the world of AI and interpersonal communication. We've explored some fascinating ideas today, and I hope it's given you a lot to think about. As we step into this future full of possibilities, remember to stay informed, stay engaged, and most importantly, stay connected.